Dr. Mark Jangizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about traffic jams. And there's a great metaphor. Someone named Tweeting TNT on Twitter. Just got to know her today, actually. And she just gave a nice metaphor. I think that I've heard it before. Many of us have heard it before. But it's great at really illustrating or isolating and distilling the point that I've been making for 3 years concerning mass hysteria and COVID in particular, as well as culpability and the kinds of ways that people often want to mistake what happened and instead excuse everybody that was in the mass hysteria, and instead say it was somebody that caused it. So the saying is simply that, look, you're not in a traffic jam, you are the traffic jam, right? And I see this often. I'll be with certain people in the car, and there'll be a traffic jam up in front. They go say, "Oh, who did this?" And it's that person up there. I can see they're going too slow. And of course, there's a whole line of people in front of them, just a slight gap that the person can't see from their angle sitting in the passenger seat. And it's not any one person. The traffic jam is us. It is me. I am complicit in the traffic jam. We all are when we're there. And I think it's relatively obvious in that case that it is an emergent phenomenon. It is an emergent effect by virtue of all of us being there, right? Now, occasionally there is some one person responsible. They get into a crash with somebody else and they can actually cause the traffic jam. But often the traffic jam is just due to everybody that's there. Right? You're not in a traffic jam. If you say that you're in a traffic jam, what you want to do is say, well, who did that? Who's the person that's causing these traffic jams? I mean, who did that? No, you are the traffic jam. And it's the same moral for mass hysteria. People hear you say, oh, it's a mass hysteria. Their initial reaction is, okay, well, then who did that? Who started the mass hysteria? Who designed this in advance to make a mass hysteria? Because all the people in the mass hysteria should be excused because, how could they know they were put into a mass hysteria? No, you're not in a mass hysteria. You are the mass hysteria. When you get swept up in a mass hysteria, you're part of the propaganda that creeps over to the next person, which causes them to panic the next person, which goes in a big loop to press, to government officials, to public policy officials, and so forth in a big old loop. And it keeps having a positive feedback loop, right? It's a different kind of emergent phenomenon than traffic jams, but it's the same kind of thing. Those who were in the mass hysteria with large voices, the larger they were, the more culpable they were, the longer that they continued to agitate for civil rights violating interventions, the more culpable they are. And the more that they were our formal leaders, the more culpable they are. Mass hysteria is no excuse because you aren't in the mass hysteria. You are the mass hysteria. And so all of these folks who are, which is something I've been talking about recently, the folks that are now on the anti-lockdown side who, oh, well, I was just in the mass hysteria for the first 2 weeks or the first 2 months or the first 6 months. No, that's exactly how it all happened. That's how this narrative, this sick narrative, this ill narrative, societal narrative started. It started because you pushed for civil liberties violations at the start when you were panicked. That's when it all happened. You can't say, well, I only did it for the first month. No, it was that month that it happened, right? Don't go blame other people that started the hysteria. You are the hysteria. Thank you for tweeting TNT for that nice metaphor. And that was your Science Moment. Get yourself a copy of Dr. Tim Barber and my book, Expressly Human, which is about these kinds of societal effects and how emotional expression has evolved to undergird these kinds of social communications. And check out the Free Expression Institute, freex.group, our place for studying freedom and free expression and mass hysteria.